Hey y'all, welcome to Cooking with Miss Holt. We are doing a recipe from my first cookbook today called Cooking with the Small Town Girl, and it's being reprinted right now. It'll be here like toward the end of December. But when somebody gives me a recipe, I want to hear the story, especially if it's one they make a lot or their family makes a lot. So anyway, this is the story. It's called Robin's Pine Bark. In my cookbook, and pine bark is where you take saltines and you make up a caramel topping and you boil it, you pour it over it, you let it bake, and then you put some chocolate on it, and then you break it up and it kind of looks like pine bark from a pine tree when you break it. So that's where the nickname came from that. But anyway, many years ago, probably 20 years ago, I taught with this sweet lady named Robin, and oh my gosh, I just can't tell you, just one of the sweetest hearts I've ever seen. Well, during that time, she had a loved one who was in the hospital in serious condition, and she had been sitting in ICU in the waiting room for days, and we all know how awful that is. And so I called her one day on her cell phone and I said, is there anything that I can do for you? Is there anything I can bring you? And she said, the only thing I can think of right now that I want to eat is that pine bark candy that you made and brought to school months ago. I don't even know how long ago it'd been. And she said, I'm just craving that. And that's the only thing that sounds good to me. And so I said, well, you're about to have it right here shortly. So I made it up and took it to the hospital and gave it to her. And so then years later, when I wrote a cookbook, I called it Robin's Pine Bark Candy because I think about her sweet face every time I make it. So anyway, that's how it came to be. So let me show you how we do it here. So let me turn my camera down. Okay, so this is just a little over a sleeve of saltines, and you can see some of mine are broken. Don't worry about that because you're gonna break them anyway. And I used just, regular saltines. I put the salt side up, the salty side up. I would not get the unsalted for this because the salt is part of what makes it good. So anyway, you wanna put those in your pan right there. Over here, I have 1.5 sticks of salted butter, and I have 1 cup of light brown sugar, and you wanna bring it to a boil, and you wanna let it boil 5 minutes. And that's what it looks like when it's boiling. So, and then I'm gonna let that finish up and I'll pour it on my crackers. Okay, y'all, this is what it looks like once you get it spread over the crackers. Now, let me tell you, I've got this in a jelly roll pan, okay, or a cookie sheet with sides, whatever you wanna call that. But you can see right there, do not put this on a cookie sheet that does not have sides because it will run off in the oven. I've got it lined with parchment paper, which will make this a whole lot easier to clean up because you know what caramel is like, once it gets on something. I'm using metal clips right here, not plastic, but metal to hold that back because we're about to put it in the oven. And let me say this, when you're boiling that caramel on the stove and when you're pouring it, and even when you get this out of the oven, hot sugar, melted sugar, is extremely hot and it burns and it's painful. So do not get that on you. Wear oven mitts and be very careful when you're making this candy. So let me put it in the oven. We're gonna put it in the oven on 425 for like 5 minutes, just to make sure that caramel's set. And then we're gonna get it out. We're gonna put chocolate chips on top and let it melt. So let me get this in the oven and then I'll show you what it looks like when we get done. Okay, y'all, this is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven after being in there at 425 for 5 minutes. Now, I'm gonna sprinkle 1.5 cups of chocolate chips over this. It can be milk chocolate, semi-sweet. I'm using some of each today because that's what I have, but it takes about 1.5 cups. So you wanna sprinkle it over there and just let it sit for a minute, and the heat from the crackers will cause it to melt. And then you can spread it out. Okay, y'all, here's what it looks like once you've got the chips all spread out, and I put pecans on half of it and left half of it plain so you could see what that would look like. And what I did is I put the chips on there and then I set it back in the oven for literally like 1 minute and then brought it back out. And of course the chips were just easily spreadable. And I will tell you this, fresher chocolate chips will do so much better with this. If you've got a bag of chocolate chips you've had for a year, even if they're still in date, because chocolate chips usually are good for like 2 years, but if you think it's been in your cabinet for a year, go get a fresh bag, because like these I put on here today were fresh and they just melted and spread like a dream. When chocolate chips get old, they are just so hard to melt. So just make sure your chips are fresh and it'll be so easy. But anyway, this is what it looks like. And then you wanna just let it come to room temperature and it'll completely solidify. It'll get hard, it'll set up. And then you're just gonna set it out of the pan and just break it up. Just like you were breaking almond bark or something, and then just put it in a little tin and you can give it as gifts or have it around the house to snack on or whatever you like. But anyway, this is Robin's pine bark, and I'll put the recipe in the comments, and it's from my first cookbook called Cooking with a Small Town Girl. Okay, y'all, this is what our pine bark candy looks like once you break it up, and I left it purposely like this so you could see a little bit of the caramel underneath, but I refrigerated that for about an hour because I needed it to go ahead and set up. But anyway, you can just kind of see what it looks like there. I move some of it around, but you can kind of see the caramel. That's what it looks like underneath, but it's crunchy. It's caramelly, and it's just really sort of addictive. It's really good. But anyway, that's what it looks like, and I will see you soon.